Hello, BookTube, and this is a TBR for the first week of Horror Mayhem, which starts May 1st. And the first week is Supernatural Creatures slash Monsters. And it is another reading event headed by the Bookish Bryants, similar to the February Fantasies and New World's November, where it's short story form, novelettes, novellas, and even short novels under 250 pages. That's the guideline, but not a hard and fast rule. But I'm, as a host, as a co-host, I'm going to try to follow that. Now, I had a large TBR for the first week, and that was based on how things were going at the beginning of March, but then I got ill again, and it took me about 3 or 4 weeks, well, 4 weeks plus to come out of that, and it's only been just over a week now that I've been able to read again, but that reading time is about 50% of what it was at the beginning of March. So I'm trying to catch up with another project, one main project that I'm doing this year, and I hopefully, fingers crossed, will almost be caught up as of next week, as of the first. But it still means that my reading time has shrunk. So I'm going to try to alter my thought of a TBR to try to fit in, but we'll see how it goes. Now, my creatures and monsters are going to be mummies, vampires, ghosts, and werewolves. 4. There's lots there. Now, for mummies, I have a book that I have not read. It's a short novel by Ricardo Stevens. It's called The Mummy. And this is published, it was originally published in 1912 and reprinted in 1923. And this is the 2016 Valancourt Books edition. And it runs in at just around 240-ish with the introduction. And it has a new introduction by Mark Valentine. Also with that will be some short stories. And this is a lovely book, and I have a number of them from the British Library. This is Lost in the Pyramid and Other Classic Stories, selected by Andrew Smith. And it's short stories. It starts out in the sort of middle 1800s, goes right up to 1910. Now, I'm not sure how many of these I'll read. I'll read as many as I can. There are a few musts in there that I will read. And then we'll go from there. There are a couple other things that, this year I had for some time. I originally bought this specifically for one title, which I didn't realize until I pulled this out recently, because it's been sitting around for a couple of years. Now, there was a sort of seminal early book about mummies called The Mummy. What's the full title here? The Mummy, A Tale of the 22nd Century. It was published in 1827 by Jane Webb, which was a pseudonym, I think, or she used a couple other names. But anyway, she was inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and it was I always knew that it was a 3-volume novel, but so was Frankenstein, and that's not even 200 pages. So I didn't realize this was so thin, and I didn't realize it's not all in here. They only have like 15 pages of it, an excerpt, which I'll probably read because it won't take long to do that. But it does have The Ring of Thoth by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which I do want to read. It's a reread, but I haven't read it in 45 or 50, well, not 50 years, I don't think, but 45 plus years, let's put it that way. And it was part of the basis for The Mummy with Boris Karloff, I think along with another one, Lot 249. which is in here as well. But it's also in the British Library book as well. Now this is Wordsworth Editions. Let's see. Give you a date here. This is 2004. It's got an introduction by David Stewart Davies, which I'll be reading. There's about a good 3 different covers for this. So I don't know why they kept changing the covers. Now, one that I doubt I'll get to, but I'll show it just in case if things go well, is The Jewel of 7 Stars. It's annotated and edited by Clive Leatherdale, but it's a Bram Stoker novel, and it's short. It's under 250 pages. So I wanted to read this for part of this for Horror Mayhem. I still may be able to squeeze some of this material in because the second week is Gothic. So if I can somehow squeeze that in under the Gothic, I will. So I'll cheat a little bit. Let's put it that way. Something also I wanted to do, which I might be able to consult slightly, but I wanted to delve a little deeper. I enjoy delving into a genre, the history of the genre, and things like that, like where it sort of came from and how it developed. And this is a pretty good book, or at least it looks like it, because I know the author. He's done science fiction and other titles that are good. This is The Mummy's Curse, A True History of a Dark Fantasy by Roger Luckhurst. Sadly, this is the crappy Oxford print-on-demand cased edition that is just horrible, because it's like it wants to fall apart once you open it up. And I would have bought it as a paperback if I knew that this was what I was going to get. It's always opt for the paperback if you have to get the print on demand junk. The pictures are pretty good in it, though. They are good representations. It was originally released in 2012. So, and it goes through with sort of a bit of a history of discovery, finding, digging up mummies, a little bit about the ancient Egypt wise, but then sort of a history of the genre. Let's see here. It's got like the curse stories, King Tut, the curses, and then the context, Egyptian in London, immersive exotic spaces, the Egyptian Hall, Belzoni's tomb, and the mummy. It's just like this Egypt. Yeah, it's just the curse and tale of the Egyptian Gothic. Rider Haggard among the mummies. Victorian Hermetism. Blavatsky's Theosophical Society. It ranges far and wide. It will be a good book, but I don't know if I'll be able to get to it because, as I say, my reading is about 50% of what it was, and this is nonfiction, and that even, slows me down more. Okay, then vampires. I wanted to do a lot more on vampires, but I won't be able to because I got 2 books here. This is the Penguin Book of Vampires, and then there's the Christopher Frayling sort of essays, as well as some other 19th century vampire stories. I don't think I'll be able to get to those because, well, I might be able to put those in because they should be pretty Gothic, I think. So I might be able to add that for the Gothic week. So, I had a good idea there. I filmed this first. I've already filmed this, but then once at near the end, I thought, I can maybe put these into Gothic, so I've redone it. But the volume that I do want to read, a novel, which I've never read, is Francis Marrett's The Blood of the Vampire. It's Valancourt publication. And this was published originally in 1897, the same year as Bram Stoker. It's Dracula. And this is 2009 Valancourt Books. And it's got an introduction by Barbara Hammock. I'm not familiar with her. but it fits in. It's about 240 pages, with the introduction. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's a definite must. Now, I'm not sure the exact order, but I'll go the order that I think I'm going to do this in. Another British Library publication, edited and introduced by Tanya Kyer. No, Tanya Kirk. This is 2016. This is The Haunted Library, Classic Ghost Stories that are to deal with libraries or books in some way. So I thought this was fitting. And I really like these British Library collections like this. Now, I wanted to read more. I do have a volume on sort of Christmas ghost stories. That's part of the British Library, their Weird Tales series. And also about trains and train stations. I'm not going to touch those now because these will be enough. And this one here that I've wanted to dip into for quite some time. I think they're all ghost stories, even though it says supernatural, but I there might be a few that aren't specifically ghost stories. But it's called Sleep No More, Railway Canal and Other Stories of Supernatural by L.T.C. Rolt, introduced by Susan Hill, who is a writer in her own on her own, and anthologist, and a lot of introductions to sort of ghost stories and other horror type things. It's a slim volume. It's published by the History Press. This edition, which is the second edition, or it's a reprint edition, 2013. They originally did it in 2010, but it is a reprint from 1948. And it is short. It's only 100. It's not even 130 pages. Yeah, it's barely 130 pages. So I'm hoping to get a few of those done. And then finally, if that wasn't enough, werewolves. And again, a British Library book called Silver Bullets, Classic Werewolf Stories, selected by Eleanor Dobson, and I assume an introduction by her as well. There's an introduction, doesn't say her. Yeah, it is Eleanor Dobson. Now, this goes from 1831 stories up to 1920. And again, I'll see how much of this I can do. It originally published in 2017 by the British Library. So I really, really do like these. So ones, if I feel that I'm sort of losing a little bit, and I'll sort of try to reserve some that I know that it can be for Gothic Week. So this is sort of I guess a proposed TBR, but we'll see how it goes. Definitely if my reading goes back to full, because my whole plan was I was keeping this week free, the first week free to do all this, other than one other thing. And that would have been easy to do because I probably would have been able to do it the week before and had it in the bag. So my plan was to deal with it, deal with this week, but best laid plans. But now, knock on wood, I can get done as much as I can, and I'm glad that I'm part of this. And I will attempt to put a list of all the co-hosts down below. And I'd love to hear in the comments or email what if you are following along and going to participate in Horror Mayhem. What are you going to read for the prompts, or especially for the first week? What are you going to read for supernatural creatures / monsters? I'd love to hear that. And or as any of this, I've already shown most of this stuff in March, but this is a more harder TBR, hopefully. Anyway, take care, BookTube. I'll see you next time.